All right. Let me bring up the presentation here. We got a nice group with us today. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. This is the third part of a three-part webinar series that we've done over the past 3 weeks on exercise for atypical Parkinsonisms. And today we'll be discussing Lewy body dementia. So we'll start today's discussion with a little bit of background on Lewy body itself, Lewy body dementia itself, and kind of what are some of the symptoms that might come with it. But really the main focus of today's discussion is to say, here's how exercise is going to help you. Here's how to become a little bit more active at home. When the coronavirus is over and things start to reopen back up, here are some great tools and ideas on how to become more active, more effectively with exercise on your own. So again, my name is Eric Johnson. I'm a neuro-exercise specialist and founder of Movement Revolution. We've been doing adaptive exercise for individuals with neurological conditions. I personally have for the past 11 years and found a huge need to provide additional resources for people living with neurological conditions, and have realized that exercise is a huge game changer for all neurological conditions, but specifically movement-related disorders such as Lewy body dementia and other atypical Parkinsonisms. So something I'm very passionate about. I hope you guys can take something away from today's presentation. If my presentation will work. Oh, there we go. All right, our mission here at Movement is to empower people with neurological conditions to live stronger every day. So the big thing that I hope you get out of this presentation today and to learn about exercise is it's not just about, exercising on a daily basis and getting your cardiovascular exercise in, but it's more about what we're really passionate about is how do we translate the exercise that you do into functioning better and living stronger every day. When you're not seeing someone like me, or you're not seeing a physical therapist, how can we help you live a better life, live a stronger life, continue to do the things that you do? And those are the things that are most important. So hopefully I can give you some tools and tricks on how to do that better today. So just kind of in review, this is again our last of this webinar series. We work with a lot of individuals with idiopathic Parkinson's disease, as well as these atypical Parkinsonisms. And I think through this process and looking at the research over the past few years, it's been eye-opening and frustrating a little bit to look at the research or the lack of research that has been done thus far on these more specialized conditions. We'll talk a little bit about why that is in a couple minutes, but commonly one of the things that we hear here at our facilities is that there are a ton of resources for Parkinson's disease specifically, but not too many resources for specifically Lewy body dementia or multiple system atrophy or progressive supranuclear palsy, which are all the conditions that we've discussed. And I hope that this webinar series has helped create more awareness on how to become more active, and really hope to create more connections within these communities to advocate for more research, for more resources to help all of you guys live better and live stronger and really become more active and learn the benefits of doing so. So the greatest thing that I've learned since my time in this career and working with this this group of people over the course of my career is that we are all a part of a community. One of the most unique things about doing these webinars and kind of amidst the coronavirus pandemic is that we all have abilities to come together in events like this and to learn more and to be more active and really unite people from around the world. Through our registration for these webinars, we've had people register from Poland and New Zealand and Brazil and Canada, across the United States, Indonesia, and just across the world, which is really great. And I think, if we can take one thing away from the world, the status of the world these days is that when we have common things that bind us, we're all stronger together. And hopefully with more knowledge and more information, you can be stronger as individuals, but also help everyone kind of connect in a different way in situations and in programs like we're going through today. So thank you all again for being here. So just kind of a brief overview on Lewy body dementia. In looking at the different types of Lewy body dementia, it kind of depends on which symptoms are presented first, right? So hold on one second, everyone. So, you know, there's Parkinson's disease dementia and then dementia with Lewy bodies. So we just want to kind of briefly explain what the difference really is. And again, it kind of comes back to what symptoms are typically seen first. So with Parkinson's disease dementia, we often see more of the motor symptoms presenting themselves first. So you might notice a slight tremor or a slowness of motion, maybe a balance concern, and then some of the more memory or cognitive related difficulties come a little bit later on. Dementia with Lewy bodies initially presents a lot like Alzheimer's disease, and it has more of a fluctuating time of these cognitive difficulties, or the symptoms might come and go more so than they would in more of an Alzheimer's diagnosis. And then later on, you know, changes with the walking and movement patterns. There's actually been some interesting research that's looked at assessing one's gait to look at diagnosing Lewy body dementia versus Alzheimer's disease. Because right now there's a lot of people that are initially diagnosed with Alzheimer's when it's not necessarily Alzheimer's. And one of the ways that they can now begin to test that, or they're looking at in the research, is by just looking at an individual's gait and their gait patterns to see if some of those motor fluctuations might be coming in as well. So, sorry, my computer is freezing a bit here. There we go. So in brief, in summary, you kind of want to go over some of the symptoms, and we'll kind of talk about how we focus on some of these symptoms regarding to exercise. But you know, just some of the numbers. You know, Lewy body dementia affects more than 100 or a million people in the U.S. alone, and it's commonly underdiagnosed because of what I just discussed. In that, a lot of times it's originally diagnosed as either Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's. So finding better ways to create the diagnosis, I think that number would probably rise a little bit in terms of the number of people, and then create better treatments, right? The more we can get people diagnosed, the better we can design exercise programs and research studies to show what can be an effective way to manage the symptoms better. You know, I really like to talk about some of the symptoms. Each person is affected differently, though. I think that's one common thing with almost every neurological condition that we work with is you are not the same as the person next to you. If you're in a group class, if you're in a discussion group like this, you're not going to experience the same symptoms as the next person might. And you might, in a different rate as well. Somebody might not experience all of these symptoms ever, and some people might experience them at different times. So, you know, at the core of all of these symptoms, I think the two major symptoms that we want to address and treat with Lewy body dementia would be memory and motor control, right? So the cognitive memory and the task-specific difficulties with memory, but then also tying that into what happens to your movement patterns as the disease progresses as well. So all of these other factors, all of these other symptoms kind of attribute to motor control or physical movement and memory and cognition. So the yellow symptoms highlighted here are ones that would be more related to memory and cognition, and the other ones would be more related to motor control, more the Parkinsonian symptoms such as rigidity, tightness, slowness of movement, and tremor. But then, you know, difficulty to maintain focus, or, you know, having, you know, disorganized speech, or you know, fleeting thoughts as you're going through a conversation. I think the one big thing to focus on, though, is, you know, I'm sure some of you have experienced that when these things start to happen, it's more difficult to control and know exactly how your body's moving and what you're thinking all at the same time, which can cause some depression, which is something that exercise can significantly help with. So all of these symptoms, for some of the exceptions of things like the hallucinations and things of that nature, can be assisted with a proper exercise routine. So we'll talk a lot about that here. But doing a research review, again, it's been kind of a frustrating task to go through the research and find studies such as, this systematic review on 288 articles that were reviewed, and close to 90% of them were deemed ineligible due to the exclusion of participants with coexisting dementia or Parkinsonisms. So people with Lewy body dementia would not be included with any of these studies. And so that's one of the reasons why there's limited research, because oftentimes the research that's done has been done on Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's specifically, and if there are these other factors kind of mixed into those studies, they're not going to include those individuals in the studies. But there is some really exciting research coming out of the University of Sydney in Australia. It's called the PRIDE study, which is an 8-week exercise intervention that targets progressive resistance training and balance with a pretty good regular set of exercise. So I'm really excited. That study is, I don't know if it's currently recruiting, so anybody that's here from Australia, I'm not quite sure if they're actively recruiting right now, but the study was actively recruiting back in 2019, so I'm not really sure where they're at with that right now, but I'm really excited to see the results of that study and hopefully more like it to come. So I think the one thing that we do know is that Lewy body dementia, Parkinson's with dementia, and other atypical Parkinsonisms, these are movement-related disorders. And oh, sorry, my phrase got cut off there, but you must move to fight them, right? If it's a movement-related disorder, we have to move in order to combat some of those more motor symptoms that might be associated with it, as well as, a lot of the research that has been done on Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's does show positive results with effective exercise treatments. And those treatments should translate to individuals with Lewy body dementia because they're very similar in the symptomology of the disease itself. So a lot of the things that we do are taken from research that's looked at these various conditions, and we apply them to Lewy body dementia, and we've seen some great results. So I can't speak enough how important exercise is, even though a lot of the research is yet to be done on the condition specifically. So when talking about building a wellness team, that's really what we're passionate about. Something I can't stress the importance of enough is, building that expert care team around you. And the center of that care team is you, the person with Lewy body dementia, and their family members or their care partners. What's really important is that we're all working for you, and we want you to be as proactive as possible. We want to help you be as proactive as possible versus reactive. Kind of recognizing, and exercise is a very proactive therapy, right? We want to address things before they start to manifest themselves. So building this comprehensive care team around you is I think one of the most important things, because there are a wide array of symptoms that you might experience throughout the years, and it's really important to have specialized individuals to help you navigate those symptoms. So I think one of the key individuals that is not often talked about, and hopefully you guys have had the opportunity to be working with a social worker, but that social worker can really be kind of a quarterback for your team and kind of navigating your communication with your doctor, along with your primary care doctor, your neurologist, getting you in touch with other support organizations, other exercise programs, giving you the psychological management and meetings, and helping you navigate some of those things a little bit better. We all have to work together, right? And again, we're all working for you. I find my role as a neuro exercise specialist a very unique one in that we have the ability to see our clients and see all of you 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week. How often do you see your physicians? How often do you see your doctors? How often do you see your physical therapist or your physiotherapist? It's either once every 3 months, once every 6 months, once a year, or if you're seeing a physical therapist, maybe it's 2 times a week for 6 weeks. But then what happens outside of that, right? what's really important for you, and hopefully, we're going to get this out of today's presentation, but continued exercise, getting into the community and remaining active. As symptoms change and ability levels, and if you get stronger or you get weaker, always coming back and remaining active will help minimize those waves of the symptoms, and hopefully make that and keep you at a good place. So it's our role as your neuro exercise specialist to help inform everyone else, but it's really important for everyone in this care team to communicate with one another. So that's something we facilitate with a letter to our doctors for all of our clients here at Movement. Something I would advocate if you're working with an exercise professional or a physical therapist, to give you a summary of, hey, what are we working on? What are our goals? What have we seen over the course of the last 8, 10, 12 weeks? And what are our goals moving forward, right? Each one of these individuals on your team has a unique responsibility and role, but we all should be communicating together. And I think now more than ever, we have the ability, at least I've noticed here in the US, a lot more telehealth and tele-exercise related services that are out there and available for you to become more active, get in touch with your doctor, have a discussion with a clinical social worker, or do your speech therapy on the computer without having to leave your home. And now it's getting a little bit warmer out here in Chicago, so it's not as difficult to get out of the house, but come wintertime, that tends to be a little more challenging. But we have a lot more resources at our fingertips now, so encourage all of you guys to try to establish that expert care team. So let's kind of get into some of the essentials on exercise specifically for Lewy body dementia. What do we focus on? What do I encourage you guys to focus on? And exercise has been studied to be a neuroprotective, inclusive treatment opportunity, I would say. And an opportunity meaning that you got to take advantage of it, and doing it consistently and establishing a routine is one of the most important pieces. The research supports the efficacy of exercise to improve the motor and cognitive functions across movement-related disorders, as well as more memory-related disorders such as Alzheimer's and dementia. So exercise can help all of these things. And the earlier you start the exercise, the better. I'm a firm believer in what I tell all of our clients here, and I tell every clinician that we work with, I can feel comfortable that anybody at any ability level, whether you're in a chair, whether you're running marathons, whether you're already have your exercise routine, there's always something that you can get better at. There's always something that we can improve upon, whether that's improving range of motion, to get out of bed easier in the morning, right? Something as simple as that just starts your day off on a better note. Whether that's getting you back to doing activity that you like to do. If you stop playing golf because your mobility was a little bit more challenged, or your shoulder was maybe a little bit more sore. We can design exercises to kind of get you back to that, maybe in a modified way, but the goal is to continue and start the exercise and then continue the exercise as long as possible. And the goal of that program being able to maintain your independence, remain doing the hobbies and daily activities that you enjoy doing. Try not to give up the gardening. Try not to give up golf, playing with your grandchildren, your children, and maintaining your mobility, strength, and balance, and identifying when and how we need to address those is really, really important. And everyone's at a different level. But setting up that daily schedule to work exercise into the day, I've worked with a lot of occupational therapists that help our clients with dementia try to find a daily routine. And I think especially now when our daily routines are significantly altered, it's harder to keep the schedule. And when we're not on a schedule, it's easier to stay inside the house and see the same people and watch more television and not be as engaged cognitively that we were when the world was open like it used to be. So really important now than ever to, exercise can really help stimulate the mind, stimulate the body. So now more than ever is a really important time to do this, but work it into your daily routine. Establishing that routine helps remember the exercises. It helps establish whatever best time of day it is for you to be conducting those exercises with the most amount of energy and the most amount of effort. So that's really important. One of the things that we do and we stress when working with someone with Lewy body is to cue better movement when we're discussing and we're looking at how do we address the more Parkinsonian symptoms associated with Lewy body dementia. So slowness of gait, balance, rigidity and tightness. What's the best way to cue exercise and get the best performance out of our clients? And one of the biggest goals, cueing is a huge thing. And one of the biggest goals I have for all of our clients is learn the most consistent cues that help you accomplish a movement better. And oftentimes those are more physical than internal cues. And what I mean behind that is when reaching down to the floor, have them reach forward toward an object, not just saying reach forward. Don't be general, be having that physical cue and something to visually identify a movement with really, really helps elicit better movement. And one of the biggest things is to not over-explain, to keep the descriptions basic and just keep it simple. And as always, with any kind of exercise, limit fall hazards as much as possible. We're going to be going through some different home exercise routines for you guys that hopefully you guys can get started with following today's presentation. But with anything, especially at the home, limit those fall hazards as much as possible. Make safe modifications, adaptations to the exercises, and when available, use machines. Some of the research that is going to be done in the PRIDE study is looking at progressive resistance training, and a lot of that is being done, I think almost all of it is being done on seated strengthening machines, leg press, chest press, leg extension, so on and so forth, bicycles. When those are available, they're a great way to effectively strengthen the muscles in the body without imposing a huge difficulty with balance. One of the things that we have here in our facilities is a body weight support harness system. So when we're looking at improving one's balance or really challenging someone's balance and doing a complex task like dribbling a basketball or boxing or walking or running on a treadmill, we don't want to risk that fear of falling. And a lot of times I see our clients with a fear of falling inhibiting a lot of the motion just by fear itself, right? They might have the strength to be able to do a movement. They can perform this specific physical activity, but the fear of falling when doing that is the biggest limiting factor and really inhibits movement, and commonly it regresses people into not moving as much. So the more we can train and take away that fear, make proper modifications, the better results that we can see from the exercise routine. So going on with some more keys to exercise, as your symptoms and abilities change, whether that be progressing or regressing exercises, your routine should also follow that and reflect that. Every person is different, and we are very strongly passionate here at Movement to provide a customized wellness plan for every client that walks through our door, whether we're working with them on a one-on-one setting or they're taking a boxing class. We want to know you. We want to know at what symptoms bother you the most, what intensity level you need to be working at based on what your previous activity level was, and then really designing the workout and the routine that addresses your unique needs is really, really important. It's not a cookie cutter approach. It's needs to be catered toward you. Again, kind of coming back to that specialized care team. Your exercise routine should be the same way. Your home is a great place to exercise, right? It's the most functional place to be. Again, our goal is to help get you moving better at home, better around the yard, doing the things that you love to do. It shouldn't be the only outlet for exercise. It's good to get out and walk in the grass or go to your favorite park. Go to the gym when you're able to get some more stimulating exercise. But the home is a perfect place to start, and you'll get some tools for that today. I think a big thing with, particularly with our individuals that we've worked with Lewy body dementia is focus and maintaining attention on a certain task can be short, and distractions can really divert attention, which takes away from the benefits that you might see from exercise when doing a set of repetitions. So trying to limit those distractions as much as possible. Find a quiet place to practice your exercises. You know, when possible, you know, get outside, go in the backyard. You know, someplace where people enjoy exercising is also really important to adhere to the exercise program. So just some good tips on how to be more engaged with the activities at home. One of the things that we discuss is progressive skill building, meaning, you know, designing the exercises to do things in sequential order. So kind of relating, and my focus for today's discussion is really saying, when you're at home, there are certain things that are commonly difficult for some of our clients. Let's focus on how to do those things better. Very functional based exercise. So if it's difficult for someone to roll out of, like, get out of bed, stand up and walk to the restroom in the middle of the night, well, during the day, let's practice that activity several times and practice movements that are going to help you do that better late at night when your balance is more compromised, when it's dark outside. So progressively building on those skills. I mean, first things first, we got to roll over in bed, which is sometimes a difficult thing for our clients to do. So let's practice the rolling first. Practice that 5, 10, 15 times, get really good at that, and then swing your legs over to the side of the bed and practice the sit and stand, standing up and down, up and down, up and down, mastering each one of those movements first, and then putting them together into the more functional motor plan and walking to the bathroom is going to be one of the best ways to improve that skill. Okay, it doesn't have to be that example. It can be anything. It can be any place in your house that is more difficult to move around in, or a certain task that you do, or a certain sport that you might like to participate in. Find out whatever it is, break that motor plan down, and then practice those movements individually to then gradually build them up into better performance with the full task. All right. But we got to relate them back to those functional daily tasks. You know, we can have you do sit to stands all day long, sitting up and down out of a chair, or a squat, or a push-up, or, you know, a seated row machine. But how are those going to help you function better every day? And I think one of the best ways to remain and adhere to a regular exercise program is to relate whatever you're doing back to something that's going to help you move and feel better every day. So that relationship is really important. I think socialization is a huge thing when being active and key for cognitive engagement, exercise adherence, and enjoyment of the overall activity. So one of the things, we have group exercise classes here, we have individualized training, but even the sense of community that we have here is a really unique one that we've seen kind of build over the years. So, you know, as you leave this presentation today, trying to find resources within your community, whether that's in your community or maybe it's virtually, trying to find ways to connect and socialize with other people, or seeing other people experiencing similar things to you or your loved ones is really important to help keep that person engaged and help them relate to other people in the group. And having a discussion with someone and being exposed to a new conversation is a great way to really work on the cognitive engagement and work on the cognitive health along with the physical health all at the same time. So finding ways to do that would be really, really important. So when it comes to modes of exercise and frequency, okay, there are a million different ways to get active out there, but I think I broke this down into a few important factors. Things you can do every day, and then things you do 2 to 4 days a week. So I consider what I do for our clients here is those things that you're supposed to be doing 2 to 4 days a week. Everything else on the blue slide, on the blue screen, is things that you should be doing on your own and learning to do on your own every day. One of the things I can't stress enough is just maintaining mobility and flexibility. So even if you don't have some of those motor symptoms associated with Parkinson's, slowness, rigidity, and tightness, just anyone throughout the day, if you're sitting down more often, if you're not moving quite as much, I think most people are not moving quite as much as they used to because they're stuck inside a little bit more than they used to be. Maintaining that mobility and flexibility is one of the most important things to help keeping you active, preventing injuries, preventing falls, and really building on strength. So different ways you can do that is just a daily stretching exercise routine, Other practices like yoga and Tai Chi are very mindful mind-body practices that are also really good for cognition and being more aware of where your body is in space. Sometimes the proprioception is lost or more difficult for someone with Lewy body dementia to fully realize, whether that's due to a magnitude of different symptoms. But yoga and Tai Chi are great at drawing attention to the parts of your body that are moving, what you're feeling when you're doing that exercise. So looking into some adapted versions of those programs are really good, and a lot of them are available online right now, which is great. Moderate cardiovascular exercise, with a lot of the research that's looked at Alzheimer's disease and dementia and other memory-related diseases and conditions have looked a lot at cardiovascular exercise and strengthening exercise to help improve or manage those symptoms better. So doing a regular moderate intensity walk throughout the day, even if that's around your home, that's okay. Working on something and getting your steps in throughout the day is really, really important for the cardiovascular system. But make sure that you're walking at a pace that's, one, safe, and two, something that you can endure for a reasonable period of time. It might be 5 minutes today, but it shouldn't be 5 minutes 3 weeks from now. You should be able to work your way up, even adding 30 seconds a week, a minute each week to build on that endurance. It really helps build up your stamina and your balance on an ongoing basis. Doing your daily functional homework exercises. So if any of you guys have gone through physical therapy, you probably have a stack of exercises, like 20 exercises long. What's really important is to figure out which ones you need to work on the most and do those on a daily basis. Don't feel overwhelmed with having 20 million different things to do. Talk with someone the next time you see your physical therapist, the next time you see an exercise professional, say, what are they going to be the most important things for me to work on with this stack of exercises? And then working on your speech and voice exercises, your communication modes are really important with anyone that has any kind of memory-related condition, because the less you talk, the less you socialize, the less you use your voice, the less stimulation we have going on in the mind as well. So continuing to work on your speech and your voice exercises and practicing that communication is really, really pivotal at helping to minimize the progression of the condition. When talking about things that are more intense, there's been a ton of research that's looked at progressive resistance training for Parkinson's disease specifically, been shown to improve a lot of the motor symptoms, along with muscles and the muscle groups that are associated with ambulation and walking. So gait speed and balance has been shown to have a lot of benefit from resistance training, as well as vigorous cardiovascular exercise. So if you have a recumbent bicycle at home or a new step, a seated stepper, any kind of seated exercise machine at home, really work to get your heart rate elevated. Unless you have a blood pressure or heart-related condition that you need to be aware of, it should be difficult, right? You should be a little bit breathless. You should be getting that heart rate elevated anywhere between 60 to 80% of your maximal heart rate. That's what we consider vigorous exercise. And if you can maintain 70 to 80% of your maximal heart rate, it's been shown to be more effective than moderate intensity exercise. So the other things that we address here as well is complex skill and balance exercises. We look at this as more of a functional approach to getting around your house, right? And I'm a firm believer that if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And that's one of the quotes that we reference all the time. And when working on something such as balance or endurance or strength, we got to challenge the body enough to stimulate the mind and the body to make the physiological adaptations. So here's just a quick video of a good way to set up your home. And then again, this is for very basic home exercise programs that can be done from a bedside. So I'll go ahead and play this. If you can't hear the audio, please let me know in the chat. But I think we should be good to go. All right, so here is an ideal home setup to become more active at home and to help a loved one be more active at home as well. So a couple of good places that we recommend that you do these exercises would be either from the bedside, lying down on the bed, or in a chair, preferably with arms. So hopefully these are all things that you have around the house. And I wanted to quickly go through some of these tools that we suggest that are going to help elicit better movement while at home. So on the bedside, we have a wedge here, which just helps support the lower back if hip range of motion and low back pain is a bit of an issue, and getting up from a low surface is an issue in core strength. This is a great thing to have. If you don't have a wedge, you can pile up 3-4 pillows back behind you. It's going to effectively work in a similar fashion. But this can help just place, if you're sitting at the edge of the bed, place it behind the person's back. The tighter toward your hips that wedge is placed, the more support and the higher up it's going to give you that support. And you can do things like sit-ups from here, right? If core strength is something where you're working on sit-ups, or hip mobility, lying back and stretching out, those hip flexors are great tools that you can use that wedge for. Aside from that, a dowel. This is a PVC pipe that I have here. That's ideal. A wooden dowel works effectively the same. I know a lot of stores are closed right now and none of us want to get out. So even a broomstick is going to be very helpful. And if you're doing any, this serves multiple purposes, but if you're doing anything where, you're placing that stick out in front of you, make sure if it's a broom that the handle, the top handle of the broom is the object on the floor, not the broom itself. So when you go to do any standing and balancing exercises, that's a little more sturdy and solid for you to be utilizing. But other than that, you can use this for range of motion exercises. One arm tends to be a little bit tighter than the other. One side tends to function a little bit better than the other. And using a fixed stick such as this will help with eliciting more range of motion and allowing the person to utilize both sides of the body, hopefully evenly, as you're looking to gain more range of motion with a given exercise. Similarly, you can use a band or like a belt, like I have here. You can either double it up. This forces someone to utilize their own strength to maintain tension on that strap. So that's a good way to help be more aware or draw awareness to creating tension and strengthening the muscles. But sometimes, if it's loose, it's not going to give you the same benefit that the dowel would be. So just another tool that you can use there. Dumbbells. If you don't have these laying around the house, some people do, but if you don't, you can use soup cans, just anything to add resistance really for any kind of postural strengthening, lateral raises out to the side or reaching down to the floor and up overhead, things of that nature you can use some added weight for. And lastly would be a TheraBand. Okay, you can use any color. It all depends on the strength of the individual that you're working with. But a couple tips on these: we've tied a couple knots on the end of each end of the band here, which gives you something to hold on to, right? Gives them something to pinch with their fingers, or prevents that hand from kind of sliding out like that. If there's a big knot on the end of it, that's just going to help with grip strength. Or you can kind of tie 2 loops at the end of each one. So. One last thing with the chair, if there's a chair and you want to do any standing and balancing exercises from the bedside, the nice thing about doing that is if you were to lose your balance going backward, you have a bed to sit down on, so it's going to be a lot safer. But when you're standing as well, that chair gives you a nice firm surface to kind of hold on to and stand up with, to work on balance and stepping exercises, so on and so forth. So that's a quick home setup that we recommend, and some different tools that we use with all of our clients virtually that hopefully will help you as well. Thanks. All right. So did I skip one there? Hold on. Nope, we're good. Now this is an exercise demonstration of a few different exercises that might give you some ideas on what you can implement at home. But again, kind of whenever you're going through your own exercise routine, being aware of what your limitations are is really one of the most important things. If you have limited shoulder range of motion due to a rotator cuff injury or significant low back pain, it's important not to push through those movements unless you've been instructed to do so by a physical therapist. But Have a spouse or a care partner or a workout buddy next to you and exercising with you. That's going to help you achieve better motion, but also ensure some safety. And then use any assisted devices necessary to do any of these exercises, especially when it goes to taking a step or standing. Having a gait belt on is something that's really easy and inexpensive to have at home. A gait belt can be purchased on Amazon or any other online retailer that can be shipped right to your door. But here's about a 10-minute workout that you guys can take a look at and get some ideas from. Hey everyone, the following is a group of exercises for people with Lewy body dementia. All of these exercises can be done and are designed to be done at the home. And I think one of the best places to do that would be at the bedside. One of the exercises I'm not going to show you today, and I can't stress the importance of enough, would be cardiovascular exercise. So if you have a recumbent bicycle or a seated stepper, such as a new step at home, highly recommend doing that on a very regular basis and at an intensity level that's going to be challenging for the individual, barring any contraindications for heart-related conditions. But that's been shown to be very effective at managing the motor and non-motor symptoms of movement-related disorders. So all of the exercises that we're going to do here today are meant to build more mobility, so addressing the rigidity, the motor planning, as well as the ambulation of an individual with Lewy body dementia, things that we really want to focus on the most. So a great place to start, right at the edge of the bed. I'm going to start on my back, okay? So trunk mobility and trunk rotation is oftentimes a really difficult thing for a lot of individuals to manage. So what I like to do is bend both knees up and just start by taking both knees over to one side and have the eyes gazing across the other side. One thing that's really important when leading anyone through an exercise routine with any kind of dementia, but particularly with Lewy bodies, is to not overcomplicate the cues. Find physical cues, find simple cues for them to focus on. So here, I'm saying take knees to the wall, eyes, look at my hand or another object for them to look toward. Okay, hold each one for 3 to 5 deep breaths. If one side is a little bit tighter than the other, you can focus on that side a little bit more. Again, just working on a little bit of trunk mobility here. Okay, now right from the bed, we can work on some of the muscles of ambulation. So one of the first things we have to do when we go to take a step is to shift weight from right to left. So one of the key exercises to not only help with weight shifting or weight bearing through the hips, which involves a lot of stability as well, but getting up and off the ground is up and off the chair is a bridge. Okay, so you're driving those hips up, make sure your knees are bent, your feet are tucked right underneath your knees, and you're lifting those hips up as high as you can. If someone can manage this exercise pretty well, what I'd like to do is either do it with a weight shift from your right leg over to your left leg. Okay, so just shifting weight from right to left. This will help us transition this exercise and relate it back to walking. Okay. Now, if we can even progress it even more, you can go with a single leg knee lift. So like marching from side to side while lifting the hips up and off the bed. If that's too challenging, start with the bridge, get there first, and then add that weight shifting in. Okay, now from there, if that weight shifting, if the marching from there was a little too difficult, a modification would be from here. Okay, so just driving that knee up as much as you can. And again, any way we can relate this back to a functional exercise like walking, the better that's going to be able to help translate it over to the individual who needs the benefit from the exercise. Okay, so from here, let's bring it all together. We're going to come to the side of the bed. We're going to work on that trunk rotation. Okay, so we're going to rotate both knees to the right. All right, and swing those legs over the side on 3. 1, 2, 3. Rotate, shift, and swing to the side. Now as we're here, okay, we're going to work on a lot of movements to help get someone up and out of a chair, which is commonly a difficult thing for individuals to do. So we're going to reach down toward the toes. Okay, maybe hold that for a couple seconds if there's any low back tightness, and then powering up nice and tall. So we're going for a lot of hip, low back mobility here. Okay, but really emphasizing posture at the top. So opening those arms up nice and big, so reaching down, open up. Very basic, simple cues, down and up. Now, I would say it's okay to have people count their repetitions, but if that's gonna cause them to be a little more distracted, focusing on cues and having the person focus on something that's gonna help them do the exercise or movement better is great. Okay, so pull those arms back to the table behind you is another way to do it. To open up that posture, we'll do one more. From here, good. Now we're gonna go with a leg kick from here. So just a basic leg kick straight out to the front, helps get some active mobility through the back of the hamstrings from right to left. Okay, keeping that posture up nice and tall. So what I would do is I would build on these exercises from getting off the bed, and then as soon as we're at the bed, working on all the positions and movements that are going to help the individual get up and out of that chair easier and build up the sequential steps to make that bigger, larger movement pattern a little bit more seamless. Okay, we don't want to overcomplicate these movements too much all at once. You want to practice one movement, solidify that movement, have them learn it, teach them another movement, and then put them together into a more complex movement pattern. So from here, at the edge of the bed, we're going to work on a sit to stand. If someone has difficulty falling back into the chair, or maybe losing their balance going forward, you can kind of put that chair out in front of them, okay? Reaching down, and then powering up. So we're applying the bridge that we did on the table back to the sit to stand. Remember that sit to stand we just did, or the bridge that we just did? And we have to do the same thing when you go to stand up. Reach to the floor, power up tall, good posture at the top. Back down, reach to the floor, big power up, and back down. And what I would say is it's okay to do multiple repetitions, okay? Repetition, along with pictures and using the same cues, will help the individual learn and remember the exercise when you come back to do it, the next day or the day after, right? So using the same setup, having the same cues, and progressing the exercises in the same way every time you do them just helps the individual remember the sequence of that movement when you go to do it in an everyday life situation. So ambulation is another thing that's commonly somewhat difficult. Shuffling of gait or small steps is something that we work on a lot. So once standing, okay, you can bring that chair back for a little bit of stability if you need to, but you want to make sure that the feet are always about shoulder width apart. Commonly we see people bring their feet close together in like this. We want to focus on keeping that nice wide base of support. Okay, so get them here to start off with, and then we're just going to shift weight over to the right leg and to the left leg. As I mentioned when we were lying down, weight shifting is one of the first and most important things for us to work on taking a better step. You have to shift weight over to one side so you can take a step with the other foot. Okay, commonly there's a strength discrepancy here and maybe some balance concerns on one side. So practicing this motion first is really important. If they want to add the arms in, okay, have them reach toward the wall, and then you stand over here and have them reach to your hand. That's a great way to do it to elicit better, more dynamic weight shifting. Okay, so long as it's safe to do so. Then you can add a high knee march in to get a little bit more lift and release from that leg that needs to go take a step. Okay, do that a couple times on each side, and then we go to build in a step. Okay, so you want to shift to one side, big step forward and back. Stay on that same side, shift, step, and back. Again, I would repeat this side 5 to 10 times, get that movement down, then we go to the other side, shift, step, and back. Again, shift, step, back. Very basic cues. Cueing each portion of that movement will help them kind of understand and remember, okay, I have to shift weight here, then take that step. Now I have to come back. So finding those cues to kind of sequentially cue that person through the movement is very helpful as well. All right. So I hope that was helpful for you guys and kind of working through some of those things I described earlier in the presentation, kind of seeing how those would play out in an actual workout setting. So I hope that was helpful. I wanted to also just make you more aware of some of the resources available. You know, the Lewy Body Dementia Association and the Alzheimer's Association have some fantastic resources on not only learning more about the condition, but also finding social support networks and other professionals, and maybe give you some better resources on what's nearby you in your area, as well as, you know, finding those care team members of your care team that can help and they help you, and they specialize in working with individuals that have Lewy body dementia. So another resource for you guys is we are a resource now as well. Anything that we can provide to help you guys become more active at home, please let me know. Our Revolution at Home website does have online videos and stretching exercises and exercise demonstrations at multiple different ability levels that are able and available for you guys to follow at home. We do provide other individualized services and assessments along the way as well. So if there's anything that we can do to help, please let me know. These are all of the virtual services that we offer at Movement. And I think one of the things that I can't stress enough of the importance of, whether that's with us or another exercise professional near your home, is to go through a comprehensive evaluation, an exercise-specific evaluation, where you assess your current ability level, your symptoms, your strengths, your imbalances, what your functional daily goals are to become better at X or to continue to play golf. All of those things should be addressed, and you should know what you're working toward. Just doing a general exercise routine is good than doing nothing at all, but really having those goals established and knowing exactly what it is that you should be working on the most is really, really important. So we've been doing a lot of individualized Zoom sessions from people across the United States and helping people get more active at home. And I have been incredibly happy with the amount of work and the diligence that and the progress that we've made with our clients over the past 6 weeks. So if there's anything we can help with, please let me know. We do offer free online Zoom classes. So same platform you're on now. We just do require that everyone goes through an initial Zoom evaluation first, which again is at no charge. And we host classes every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So those the Tuesday and Thursday class tend to be more dynamic and more rigorous, but everything can be adapted to any ability level. So, and again, I can share all resources like this in our virtual resource website with everyone. Following today's presentation, I'm going to be sending out a follow-up email kind of summarizing today's presentation and the past two that we've done, and along with links on our YouTube page to help rewatch the presentation and go through some of those exercises again. So I also want to note that this presentation and this series is a part of an initiative that we call the Parkinsons CoOp, which is a project that we established here at Movement, and we received a community grant from the Parkinsons Foundation to provide resources for the Parkinsons and atypical Parkinson's community to really help promote education on exercise, provide exercise resources, get people engaged more socially living with these conditions, and through the grant as well, we've provided some financial support that has helped us provide some of the free online services that we're offering right now, as well as some scholarships for community exercise programs prior to COVID. So I thank you guys very, very much for participating with us today. I'd love to take your questions. If you guys have any questions outside of the discussion today, please, this is my direct contact information. Feel free to email me or shoot an email over, and I'd be happy to answer those questions for you. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now.